Hey, welcome back. I thought we'd shift gears a little bit and have a little, may have some fun and some creativity. And along those lines, I think one of our great human faculties, if not our greatest, it's the one that Einstein felt was number one, that's often underused in so many of us, certainly in me, but I'm working on it, is our imagination. And our imagination, our ability to see inside of our head realities that don't exist yet. Now, a pure rationalist would say that's delusional or evasive of the truth, but imagination is the God given faculty we're all given to look beyond the reality of things and create new ones because aren't we here to be creative? Anyway, in my spiritual program, there's a very interesting phrase that I really blew my mind when I first heard it, but it said principles before personalities, and this principle called anonymity, which means let's not pay too much attention to individual human beings and the quirks and foibles of their personality, and instead pay attention to the intractable, unassailable principles that underlie. And it's very wise in the room of recovery because you never know what an individual is going to do. They may be the brightest, most brilliant and wonderful, and before you know it, they're in Utah after a 3-day bender, and so let's not pay so much attention to people so much, but to the principles. And it's brilliant and it really works. However, we don't want to stretch that so far and not be inspired or have our imagination fired by enormously creative people in the world. And certainly be judicious, but allow ourselves to be enthralled, inspired, and amazed by other humans because this is how we learn. This is how we get our imagination fired. This is how we're inspired to do things and to push ourselves in ways that we wouldn't otherwise. And so this week, I thought we might take a look at who it is or what it is that we find inspiring. One of the greatest lines of scripture is, without vision, the people perish. So we need to be fired up. We can't just depend upon our own imagination and creativity. I mean, even if we're the most creative, imaginative person in the world, we're only seeing a trillionth of what there is to be seen. And so I'm always on the lookout for authors, teachers, creative people that inspire me. And usually the experience I have when I read them or listen to them or I see or I hear their work is that I'm alternately blown away. It takes my breath away. And it's usually followed up by, I hate that person because they're so far ahead of me. They're so far out in front. They're light years, they're lifetimes ahead of my development in a particular area. And when I was younger, that feeling really used to disturb me and just make me want to. It hurt too much to think that there were humans that were that far ahead of me. It made me want to quit. And so, the phrase progress, not perfection, has been a lifesaver for me. And now I feel as though I'm much more in a position to be inspired by people. And so, who inspires you? I think this also brings up the great necessity, urgency that if we claim that we're spiritual people, that we should always be learning something new, not just new spiritual stuff, but new life stuff, new languages, new skills, new abilities that keep our mind fresh and open us up and reveal our own ability to create and imagine. And along those lines, I I'm going to mention somebody that I've come across, and the purpose of me saying this is not to say, "Hey, I think this person should inspire you." That's not why I'm doing it. It's to say that have a look at somebody who is inspiring a lot of people on the planet and definitely see their creativity, but also to be reminded that it's okay to look and to see and to be enthralled and to be inspired and have our breath taken away by other humans. Because as far out in front of us as other humans may seem to be, it we can always say to ourselves, God bless that person because somehow in some way over a long period of time they've engaged the pursuit, the seeking of this knowledge, this wisdom, this brilliance and this genius, and now it's being made manifest on earth. They're bringing this astonishing capacity on earth. And I'm so grateful that someone has spent the time, the ability, the diligence. And there was a phase in their development where I'm sure it was incredibly difficult, very aggravating, and yet they moved through it with diligence, with patience and peace. So I'm going to put a link in the chat, and it's a musician, and I'm obviously enthralled with musicianship right now. And while in many cases, I would never use musicians as my spiritual leaders, when it comes to human creativity and the ability to express, the ability to open outlets of my soul that I know have been blocked off for a long time, I like to look at great musicians. I like to see how they sit, how they talk, what words they use, what inflections. I like to just watch them and absorb. And I pray, God, please help me to understand and to see what it is that these amazing humans are able to do. Doesn't mean I want them to be my spiritual leader, although it doesn't necessarily mean that I don't. It's just be inspired in particular areas. So this guy's name is Jacob Collier. Collier. You may or may not be familiar with him, but he's now 29 years old. But he grew up in a family of musicians. His mother was classically trained, but his father split when he was 3 years old. Mom struggled, and he kind of grew up in his own room, and he just kept adding more and more musical instruments. Of course, his mom fanned the flame of his musicianship, and it was discovered that he had not only perfect pitch, but a brand of perfect pitch that goes off the scale. And then he became a multi-instrumentalist. But at the age of 13, he put together a particular song. And of course, this is the age of YouTube. And his mom said, you know, if you launch this song on the internet, your world's going to change. Do you really want that to happen? And this fun-loving, frisky, friendly, amazingly humble kid said, sure. So he posted this song on the internet, and within 3 hours, Quincy Jones, Chick Corea, and Herbie Hancock, three of the world's greatest musicians or producers, were on the phone with him, and his career was launched. But anyway, he's a genius beyond all measure, and most of the great musicians on the planet are looking to him. He's busting paradigms that many thought could never be broken in the world of music. So have a look. It's a visit that he had to MIT. There's a million YouTubes. Listen to some of his music. It's very strange because he can sing in various microtones. In other words, there's 12 tones in Western music. He can sing and hear thousands of different tones, and he puts them together in the most creative, loving, amazing way that's literally blowing minds. So I watch him, and on one hand, it's like, that bastard. But on the other hand, it's like, thank God, God put me in touch with that. So this week, let's be inspired by humans. Let's see how our creation and our creativity and our imagination can be fired. And let's use the best of humanity, shall we? Have a look at the link if you have a moment. If you click on the tab now, it'll open up a new link. So as we leave our Zoom, you'll be able to have a look. Tell me what you think. See ya.